Yeah. No, this is. It's down. Something's going on. Disconnected.
All right. Okay, are we ready? All right, I can be able to call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Verification of public notice, meeting was publicly noticed, verification of a quorum. We have 5 members of our school board in attendance. Approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I like how some.
All right, you'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda? All right. For the agenda, approval of the agenda, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second Dr. Davis.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion before? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none. Motion carries unanimously 5-0. All right, and then our mission statement is together with our families and community, we will inspire students to be passionate learners, creative thinkers, and innovative leaders who enrich our world. All right, so now we do have another board member here, so that would be 6 board members in attendance. All right, let's go to our district administrators report. Dr. Kelsey Brown.
Good evening, board members and community. Just a few updates regarding the district administrator's report. I am happy and proud to report homecoming week went very well. We brought back the powder poke game, which happened on Thursday night. We turned it into, rather than tackle football, we turned it into flag football. And that went really well. On Friday was the football game and the pep rally. The students did an outstanding job with facilitating the pep rally and leading all of the fun games that went along with that. In addition, our book fair just closed at the elementary school. So I want to thank Karen and her team for running the book fair at the elementary school. And then back to homecoming, Ms. Brown and Ms. Olabuski. Who was instrumental in, one of our teachers who was instrumental in facilitating homecoming week, including the parade, which went really well. We also, under the leadership of Dr. Garrison, started an instructional audit on today. So we have partnered with CESA One. They are coming in to conduct classroom observations and help us lay out our multi-tiered systems of support as we continue to move forward. You will hear a little later, or everyone knows where Dr. Garrison is transitioning to. But with that, I want to let everyone know that the Dr. Garrison's position, the Director of Teaching and Learning position, is posted to WeCan. And so if anyone is interested, or if you know anyone's interested in applying, please encourage them to do so. We are continuing on with our sports activities, as we know, for the season. We have a final hire here at the ASC for a business office specialist position. And we continue to provide a high quality teaching and learning experience for our students in all 3 buildings. So I'm thankful to everyone who has stepped up for this, I think, 8th week of school, maybe 8th week of school at this point, as we continue to do great work for our students. So that is the district administrative report, including tomorrow, I will be at a WASA conference for a day in Waukesha. That is our report. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Board members, questions? And seeing none, all right. Well, first off, I guess the other thing too is happy birthday. It only comes one time a year.
I said I made it around the sun again.
Yeah, that's right. You gotta keep on making it around. All right. All right. So now next part, we go to our public comments. And again, people that want to do public comments, they have to say what their name, their address is. And again, it is a question, it is a comment, not a question. And the limit is 3 minutes on the comment. If there's anybody, I don't know if there's anybody, we didn't do it on the chat.
Somebody in the chat. That's nice. Oh, that's you.
Okay. So what we'll do is, anybody have any public comments? All right, what we'll do is, as usual, we'll give 1 minute before we before we move forward?
If they're virtual, you want to ask them to put their name and address?
Yeah. What-
Yeah.
Yep, there is one.
Oh, okay. Anybody that would like to be able to be, okay, I guess they've heard it, said it. All right, if they have a member, again, it is a comment, it is not a question. So anybody that is, it is a comment, not a question, and you have 3 minutes. All right,
Hello?
Is that your name?
yeah, good evening. If you could state your name and your address, please.
My name is Jarton Davis Senior. I stay at 8654 North 62nd Street, Brownsville, Wisconsin, 53223.
Okay, all right, and your comments, sir. Remember, it's 3 minutes.
Okay, great. My comment is basically to share my concerns in regards to the Brownsville Village alternative program. This program was not organized and structured. Students didn't have any Chromebooks. They were riding their bikes outside my church. They were sitting in the school van. They wasn't learning anything. It felt like a detention center. They were supposed to be someone to come down to the church, like a custodian. No one came. So we ended up making sure that the church was sanitized and all the rooms were done and clean. We spent time and money on updating our facility to make sure that our contract with the district was suffice. I declined other opportunities for business to make sure that we were assuring our part of the lease. I also acquired other contracts to ensure the safety of the students and staff for this school year. Also on October the 16th, I received an email advising that the district wanted to end the lease. And so, this partnership that was established, it was just kind of disheartening because of the lack of transparency with the district. It was disheartening. I fathomed that no one took the time out to discuss this with me, but by sending an email, they thought that would be suffice. I responded to the email stating that we will honor the 90-day notice. Also, they wanted to ask if I was comfortable with that the security deposit be used for final payment. I didn't agree with that. And so it was just disheartening to kind of find out how this all come to an end. The students didn't learn anything. It was just really unprofessional how the district has handled us in regards to this program that we have worked diligently hard to ensure that the students that were supposed to come here was being taught, and they wasn't. And so, it was just, I'm lost for words of how things ended.
All right, Mr. Davis, thank you very much for your comment. I'm quite sure someone from the district will be getting in contact with you to address more with your concern. And that could either be Mr. You said you got an email from Mr. Klimick?
Yes, I got an email from him. It was disrespectful. He challenged the integrity of me being a pastor because I didn't agree with their terms that they wanted to do with the church. I wanted them to honor the lease like how we have, and we had no problem with them ending the lease, but just how he presented it to me and how he talked to me was so disrespectful, and it wasn't right. I'm lost for words. This is how the district respond to a community leader. It just wasn't right. It's how you do things, and how he did it. It wasn't right. It was no communication, no transparency of anything from the district. And so, how can you have a partnership with someone who you don't trust, who say one thing and do something else? It just, it is just, I'm lost for words. I'm lost for words.
Can we have something to be set up for you to discuss further? Why do I want to keep looking back like somebody? Oh, there he is. Oh, okay. Is there a way for us to, hey, what's going on, Pastor Davis? Is there a way for, good. Is there a way that we could potentially have something set up to where you can talk with Mr. Klimick and Dr. Brown in relationship to this situation?
Sure, I would love to. That would be great.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Pastor Davis. We really appreciate you. Tomorrow you'll get us on a phone call in order to be able to set up a meeting. All right?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Any other public comments? Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go on to our item number 4, our consent agenda. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Dr. Beal, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the minutes of the September 13th, 2022 special board meeting, technology training, September 13th, 2022 special board meeting, September 27th, 2022 regular board meeting, September 29th, 2022 budget hearing and annual meeting, the schedule of voucher payments via check, ACH, and wire transfers in the amount of $972,547.52 in the general checking account and the food service account, including funds 10, 21, 27, 39, 46, 50, and 80, and the October 25th, 2022 school safety drill update as presented tonight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Daniels Ashley. So a motion has been made. Do we have a second? Thank you very much, Ms. Macon. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor with the raise hand and/or aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 6-0. All right, let's go on to item number 5, items for discussion, consideration, and possible board action, approval of new hires. Mr. Clement.
We have no new hires this
All right, that's good news. So now I want to know, is there some more good news behind this? Item number B is approval of resignations.
I'm gonna pass this one out to Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Clement.
See, that's passing the buck.
She's requested.
Yes. So good evening, board members and community, once again. I would ask the board, I am asking the board to make a motion this evening to approve the resignation of Dr. Willie E. Garrison II. But prior to making the motion, I want to personally and professionally thank Dr. Garrison for applying to be the Director of Teaching and Learning here in the School District of Brown Deer. Simultaneous, as Dr. Vito knows, and Dorothea, who were on the board when I was appointed as the superintendent, who knows that Dr. Garrison applied for, and Ms. Robinson, thank you. Applied for the superintendency here in the School District of Brown Deer. And so when he applied as the Director of Teaching and Learning, he interviewed well and came with the skill set that I believe was necessary to get us through COVID. Dr. Garrison came in with aspirations for the superintendency, and we worked very closely together. And I'm hoping, Dr. Garrison, that I served you well in terms of growing together in the space to get you to transition to your next role as superintendent in the School District of Beloit. With that, I would just like to remind the community of what Dr. Garrison was able to accomplish during his tenure. Our K-8 reading curriculum with Lucy Calkins, K-12 math, K-12 science. We adopted the science curriculum, K-12 social studies roadmap was created. We did a curriculum review with Spanish. He brought closure. One of his first tasks was to bring closure to the human growth and development. Helped us navigate the pandemic, helped us re-solidify our power standards in all subjects, rebooted the PLC process, educator effectiveness, our 5E platform for student engagement, and this goes on and on as we navigated the pandemic together in conjunction with our cabinet and our principals who were here in the school district at that time. Dr. Garrison, I just want you to know that I'm gonna try not to cry. You will be missed. And I thank you for being right by my side during this entire journey. You were there every step of the way. and you are appreciated.
Thank you.
I can't, so let me just say. Let me, so you all know, Dr. Brown and I have worked very, very closely with each other since we walked into this conversation. You know, I'm gonna take like 2 minutes to say what I should say. You know, July 2020 rolled in here and we was right in COVID, right? And, we didn't know what we were gonna walk into. But we walked into a lot of work here in the Brown School District. Dr. Brown, her leadership as a superintendent, had to help us navigate through a pandemic that none of us had ever experienced. And so I want to say thank you for that leadership. That's just in 2020, right? Now we can say more things that Dr. Brown was able to accomplish in that year. Y'all remember phase 1, 2, 3? Phase we had to go through. That phase.
WX, Y, and Z.
That phase conversation wasn't done in isolation. Dr. Brown and I sat in that back room back there, right in that back room over there. We drew up all kinds of plans, and that plan actually became a lot of other people's plans around the state. Okay, that's just a fact. People don't want to say it, but that's what happened. Our Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday became a staple for what other districts could follow. And that happened under our leadership. That's a fact. But we pressed on, right? And so we moved from 2020 to 2021. We also, I like to say last year was even more challenging than the pandemic year. I would say the COVID year was, 2020, 2021. I call it last year the pandemic year. Because the pandemic year, what we experienced, again, what we've never experienced before. In the COVID year, we all came together. As a school district, I want to say we really pulled together like tight, try to make it through that year and do what's in best interest for students. That 21-22 school year was even harder, that pandemic year, because now we had the great migration of school teachers. Okay, that's just a fact. And this didn't happen here in Brown Deer. That's no fault of anyone in this room. I want to put that in, just want to say that because I think it's important. There was a lot of different challenges that a lot of people had to experience during that year. And for whatever reasons, the teacher shortages happened right here in Brown Deer as well. We had we had teacher outages and quarantines and isolations and principals serving in classrooms and instructional coaches becoming teachers all over again. Stuff that oftentimes are not talked about, we had to navigate right here in the school district of Brown Deer, but we still pressed on, which rolls us into this year. Now we got off to a great start. And again, I honestly believe it's because of the systems that we've put in place over these past 2 years under Dr. Brown and myself. Now, with that being said, I believe we are much better together than we are apart. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe we're much better together than we are apart. Brown Deer School District does have their superintendent. That's why I'm leaving to go somewhere. Brown Deer School District does have their superintendent, Dr. Monica Kelsey Brown. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Dr. Brown, for taking me on, like I shared 2 weeks ago, for taking me on in this conversation. Now, a lot of people would have looked at my appointment into this position as very challenging. To take a finalist candidate in the position that I would have loved to have sat in. That's just a fact. I was okay. So to take a finalist candidate and make me be number 2, that's a sign that that's something that she did for me. But I also believe that's also showed her character and allowing someone to like myself to be able to create space for me to grow and do what I need to do to move into these conversations. Now, yes, like Mrs. Brown stated, Dr. Brown stated, I have always been finalist along the way. Yes, I was a finalist here, I was a finalist following year, I'm a finalist this year, and I got the position. But I honestly believe we had a great opportunity. We did have a great opportunity. We had a great run as it pertains to, serving each other well in the school district and moving our conversations forward. Again, we pulled together. I would only hope that that will continue to be the mantra here in the Brown Deer School District, that we continue to pull together. Yes, she mentioned a lot of my accomplishments, but those accomplishments weren't done in isolation. I had to do that with teachers, staff, administrators, and again, Dr. Brown. That's just a fact, you know, I accomplished those 9 or 6 or 7 curriculums and plus other stuff. Because she allowed me to operate in my space without getting in the way, without stopping me from doing something. Yeah, we got into some arguments every once in a while. We did. Not I say arguments, we got into some, but we would normally get into as it pertains to, you know, the 1 and 2 really trying to do what's best interest of students. And one thing I can say, Dr. Brown has never put herself in a position to hurt students, and that I can get behind. She never put herself in positions to hurt a student. And again, that's something that I can truly get behind. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you to the Brown Deer community, my team, Mrs. Kara, all the administrators, all the instructional coaches, principals. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to serve at the highest level in which I could serve. And I shared this in my new school district. This is my last closing, like I'm at church. I shared this in my last school district that, no, not last, the school district I'm going to, that if I didn't serve you and you didn't see the love, then that's a reflection that I need to go back and do. But hopefully everyone in this room has seen my love and my service. Mrs. Macon, Mrs. Fleet Daniels, Ms. Ross, Dr. Brown, Mrs. Robinson, Dr. Beadle. Why am I forgetting your name? Ms. Peterson, David Peter, I see him. Ms. Walker isn't here, of course, you didn't see my service. I love my service, and then that's something I need to go back and reflect on, but I hope you saw I love my service every single day that I showed up here. And with that being said, I will sign off if approved. As the director of teaching. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion?
It is with great sadness, Dr. Garrison, that I make a motion, Dr. Beadle, to approve the resignation of Dr. Willie E. Garrison II as the Director of Teaching and Learning effective November 4th, 2022.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Ashley. Motion has been made and second. Any discussion before we go to vote?
Just want to say thank you for your service.
And I saw the love and I saw the support, and I just really, really want to tell you, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for, you know, just being supportive of Dr. Martha Kelsey Brown. And thank you for just serving the good residents of this community. And all the best in your future endeavors.
Yeah, and the District of Beloit has gained something great that the District of Brown Deer is losing. So good luck to you. And you know you always have family. Don't get over there saying that you're not a Brown Deer.
Welcome, Dr. Norway. Don't forget that.
I'd like to thank you for your service and to say that you put in I've witnessed you putting in every effort to elevate our programs and our students and to support parents. I thought you had cloned him at one point. I saw him here and then I saw him there. So Dr. Garrison used everything. So, and we needed you and we appreciated that. So that was, thank you.
He cannot take any of Brown Deer people with him.
Right.
That's the other thing. That's right. Any of my people to drive with them a little. I made that clear.
They gonna start this new church with it.
Right. There you go.
That's how I usually happens.
I still got questions for him and Dr. Camille before I can say goodbye. So, yeah.
All right. Brown Deer parking ride out. Take you on the Beloit with us.
You got anything you want to say, Harvey?
We talk all the time, so yeah, I definitely appreciate what you've done since you've been here within the district. Even the extra duties that you scratches on your hands and all that kind of stuff, but you know, you're always there to support, so thank you.
Yep, you know what? I ain't gotta say a whole lot, man. We already done, we done had our conversations or whatever, and you know, one of my proud moments was to be able to be that reference when they called me and asked about them. So of course I had to tell the truth or whatever and everything like that. And it was just like, hey, we hate to lose him, but again, we know what his aspirations were. Gave us 2 years more than I thought. So, you know, with that being said, my brother, do your thing.
All right.
Don't forget about us. You know, don't forget about the little people. You know what I'm saying? You know, hey, we around this table, we might need a job one day. You know what I'm saying? And you know, hey, good luck. Remember now what that part of that conversation we had about, you know, them long drives, having to go to your office or whatever have you, get your mental health in. All right, man. So like I said, appreciate you. Once a Falcon, always a Falcon. So we know how it works. All right. So with that being said, all in favor, raise hand and/or aye. Opposed? No. Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously 6-0 for letting Dr. Garrison go. All right, so let's go on to our next item I think that was the last resignation, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, so now let's go on to item number C. Now, this should be good. Discussion of the potential debit diffusion.
Yes, so actually the next three topics are all interchanged and all depend on each other, but I thought I'd at least start the conversation with the first one is just understanding that we have another opportunity for the board to defease debt or prepay debt. This is a technical way of the way we have to do it. So we are looking at another situation. I'll go into a little more detail when we go into the budget, but we have seen a significant increase in equalization aid this year of about $1.5 million. So that equalization aid and property taxes are inversely linked. So the more aid we get, property taxes go down. So we are looking at a potential very significant drop. Let me scroll up here to our revenue limit worksheet. So we are in a situation where, as I mentioned, aid has increased significantly and the property taxes are going down. So we are looking at, like I said, a $1.5 million deficit or reduction in the Fund 10 levy. In addition to that, we had over levied last year by $600,000 in our referendum debt to help prepay some debt. So last year we did a $600,000 over levy, combine that with a $400,000 one that you had done the year before that hadn't been we hadn't done anything with yet. So we did $1 million defeasance last year. We are in another situation now where we can defease a significant amount of money. It just depends on what the appetite of the board is for tax savings for the district versus potential defeasement and interest savings long term. One of the goals as a school district is to try to keep what we call levy stability, because there is the fluctuations that do occur with student enrollment and things like that, so that you don't really want to see levies go up and down and only to take it away or provide people relief and then have to take it away the next year. So anything we can do to help kind of stabilize that to some extent is helpful. And this is one opportunity we have, again, because of the fact that we have this significant drop, we have the ability to do that. And what I did do then is I did present a couple of scenarios to you. You can honestly pick whatever number you want to pick, but I presented 4 different scenarios of what that looks like from a overall tax levy decrease and mill rate calculation. Beginning with again, if we just did all tax relief on this for this go around, that would be a 17% drop. The tax levy drops to $827. If we do a $500,000 defeasance, so you're going to see right here where Fund 39 is. This is the number that's going to change depending on how much money we put into it. So if we had $500,000, that's a 13% drop. If we do $1 million, it's a 9.2% drop. 1.5 million is a 5-point drop, and then to do another $2 million and use up most of it will only be a 1% drop. So. And then I did also send you, I posted as well, some just rough estimates from Baird as to what that will look like. And basically the interest savings is approximately half of whatever you defease. So we're looking at anywhere between about $250,000 for the $500,000 level to over $1.1 million if we were to defease $2 million. So this is really just an opportunity because this is going to set the stage for how we do the tax levy when we approve it later. So it's really kind of a question to the board as to what you would like to do regarding the potential decrease versus defeasance.
Kevin, I got a question. And it's a little bit different from here because generally we always handle school board business. But did we have any conversation with the village in relationship to what we were potentially talking about in relationship to the taxes and stuff? Because I know that they have their own thing that they have to do. And so most people don't understand, like I've got to go and do the meeting with the seniors club or whatever. And so one of the things I always talk about is I talk about the taxes and everything else, the taxes going down. Well, part of the issue is I can say, well, the school district is making sure that your taxes are going down, but then people taxes actually go up. So then they're looking like, so what are you talking about? So I have to turn around and explain to them, well, we're only a part of what your tax bill is, right? It's us, it's the village, it's MATC. Now, we still paying for the Brewer Stadium?
No, the county has a small portion and MMSD.
Right. And so then with that being said, their taxes probably could actually go up, even though the piece of the pie that the district is using has gone down. So that was kind of one of those things I was wondering, were you able to potentially talk to the village just to see? Because if there was a way for us potentially, either separated or we work together to be like, how we can make it a bigger bang for everybody's buck to make sure that everybody's taxes go down because we were able to do this, then I think that would stop a bunch of questions.
Sure. Well, there really is no way to work interoperably. They're going through their budget process now and they have, I think November is usually when they set all of their final levies and things. And I would say the village is in a different situation where they don't have equalization aid like we do to help offset property taxes. So they usually can grow property taxes. They're going through the same things we are with increased costs and staffing and all those sorts of things. So, if they have the ability to increase the levy, that's the only way they're going to get additional money. And they're usually limited to new construction in a village so that as new property is developed, then they can raise, or based on the value of the village, they can increase it. So they're kind of in their own element for that. You're absolutely right with the fact that we don't really have any control over what the property tax bill is. And I know for years when I was sitting in your seat, we would talk about that. I don't even bring that up anymore because it isn't the thing that we have any control over.
Right.
What you're experiencing now in the village, we've gone through another reassessment this year, and every property is treated differently. And I would surmise based on just driving around the village and seeing houses have gone for sale quite a bit, but we have a lot of empty commercial property. My guess is that when you look at the residential commercial split of the property tax bill, it's going to fall more on the residential property. So even a person who doesn't do anything to their home and maybe their value doesn't go up, their taxes may increase because the property tax value is shifting from the commercial property. I don't know that. I mean, but that's obviously what's happened over the last several years. And whether somebody sees a decrease or an increase is really based on how their property value changes compared to the other surrounding similar property. So really my focus and my message is that we continue on a yearly basis to tax less money, ask less money from the village. And again, this includes our operating budget and our referendum budget. And our referendum budget includes debt payments for both the 2012, 2011 and the 2018 referendum. So we're at a point now where we are taxing significantly less than we did when those things were passed, and we wouldn't have known, that we would be in this situation necessarily. But it's a great opportunity again to potentially prepay some debt, take that off the books. We saved about $400,000 last year with what we did, I believe, for $500,000. And I would expect, like I said, we have some estimates. They'll shift a little bit. We won't be able to do this until spring, and what the market's like at that point, it will vary. But I think it's another opportunity. It's just a matter of, again, how much you want to shift, how much you want to
This
get.
is how much we want to put for the defeasance part or whatever have you. But then didn't we also have that goal to where we wanted to have $1 million in, was it Fund 10 or Fund 30? Which one?
What's Fund 46? That's under operating, that falls under the operating budget part. So that's not something you're taxing, of course.
Well, no, I'm just saying, no, but one of the things that we did want to be able to do is be able to have roughly about.
Million, but then again, we're going to tax at the max for operations. That's the $7 million number. That's under the revenue limit. That's the most we can do. That's what we're gonna do. The question is then the additional money we collect is only for debt service. It's nothing we can put into Fund 46. It doesn't impact that at all.
So this is all just debt service.
It's all Fund 39. It's all debt service. You have the ability as a board to tax whatever you want to in Fund 39. So if I mean, I just use the extreme example, if you wanted to raise taxes by $38 million, you could pay off all the debt in 1 year. I don't think.
Run out the village.
But this is the way to do it. And again, we're going to be taking a really significant dent out of the final payment of the 2018 referendum. That's our highest interest debt, which is about 4%, which is 4%. So that's where we always look for the highest rate thing to take care of, because that will give us the most interest savings.
All right, with that being said, questions for Kevin in relationship to some of this or whatever, because again, this is one of the top 3 or 4 things that we do as a board, and this is one of them. So us being able to understand and knowing exactly what it is that we like to be able to do of being great financial stewards of the village's money.
I'll also add that debt service is what's known as a shared cost for equalization aid purposes. So we're kind of into you usually use vicious circle. It's actually a happy circle where we end up spending more money in debt service, which then next year will provide us with more equalization aid, which means the taxes will go down again.
Because we get more
opportunity to defease debt. So I mean, it's until we are in a situation where they change the formula, or if our values start to change in a different way. Right now, we are positively aided when we spend an excessive amount of money. So the more money we spend, we actually get more aid back. So this is again an opportunity to leverage that. There may be a point where we don't want to do that anymore, and that's actually a negative for aid. In that case, we would go back to just paying down the debt service that was scheduled.
Right.
And that would be lower based on the fact that we're going to defease some potentially more.
Treasurer Peterson, you got any questions?
I think probably, and it may be a question for all of us, is what would be, Kevin, the recommendation coming from your office as to what you would offer or suggest that the board consider?
This is more of a political decision, I think. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, you know, I'm also a taxpayer, so I'll be impacted by this decision as well. Sure, I'd love to see the tax rate go down, but I believe it would behoove us to have some additional debt fees. If you wanted to do a little bit of a split of both, especially in this time where, and again, we can't control the tax bill because we don't know what it'll be like for individuals, but you can always, if you did something like the 1.5 million as an example, you would be providing 5%, a 5% levy reduction, and then defeasing another $1.5 million worth of money, which wouldn't quite pay off that debt, but it would get pretty close.
Because how much more would we owe now?
That one is currently at 1.92 million. So if you did the 2 million, or if you did if you did the exact, well, you have to do a little bit more to pay for the interest. But if you did the 2 million, I think that example in the charts they gave actually totally pays off that debt, which is a 1.925 million, and then takes $50,000 off of the next highest debt. So you start digging into that next debt. So you could do that again. Then you're reducing taxes only at 1%. 1%. So it's just, again, it's a balancing act of, if you look at, you went $400,000, $600,000,
What's the total again, Kev?
of what?
Do we own that that we owe for the?
1.925.
So we split it up, a million. We did $1 million this year and then $1 million next year.
Yeah.
Would that still, how much would that save us? Would
Well,
they
we don't know.
save us the 50,000?
Next year, we won't know because, parts next year, we're gonna have, first of all, we don't know what the budget's gonna be like. We don't know if they're gonna give you more revenue limit authority, which again, if you get more revenue limit authority, that means you're raising taxes. So if we get more revenue limit authority, that's one thing. And then we also have our lowest attendance year, the pandemic year, falls off of our 3-year average. So we're gonna see a big jump there anyway, which is gonna allow us to raise the revenue limit, which would, unless there's a huge offset in aid, we could be raising taxes. So that's where I can't say that you could plan $1 million this year and $1 million next year. If you do over levy by $1 million, there's a chance that some of it would get eaten up by the tax increase, that we might have next year. Again, I don't know counts, I don't know aids, but as an example, if we were able to raise, if everything else changed, we were able to raise taxes by $500,000 for additional revenue, then now you're only $500,000 over. over levy. So you might not have $1 million available. It might only be $500,000 if you decided to keep, and you'd be keeping taxes flat. So again, I don't know the aid formula. We would assume that the legislature has tended to provide more money into aid because the more money they put into aid, they can say, we're contributing to education, and then it lowers property taxes. They're going to put money somewhere. That's probably where they're going to do it. But again, we have an election that we have to do in 6 weeks. Or not even 6 weeks.
So they even 6 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 weeks. And we'll know more after that happens, probably as to what the plan is. So this was that last. If you go with the $1 million version, this is 1.5. So you can see that this loan was 1.925. It goes down to $450,000. Net savings is $834. You do $1 million, then you go from 925 to 945, and you're saving about $548,000.
And then the reduction, what was the percentile drop for?
So your drops would be either, would be for 9% per million, 5% for 1.5, 1%.
And a 1.5 would leave 400,000 left in the 420.
But if we could save, like, had that 9.2%
Yeah.
savings, and that is $1 million,
Right.
which is about roughly half
Yeah.
of where we're at. It sounds like, to me, it's almost sounds, I don't know what everybody else is thinking. Almost seems better for us if we did the million, because again, we're still saving, minus 9%, 9.2% in taxes for people or
And that could
whatever.
be seen on the tax bill because it's itemized individually, correct? So
Well, I don't know if they see the whole levy.
I thought they did. I thought they broke that down.
Well, they're also gonna see their portion of it, and so their portion may go up because of the
Right.
bill rate based on
that's
their.
what I'm saying, that they would be able to see the school.
School portion
School portion is lower.
reduction
by a
of
million,
it.
by by about $1 million.
I would
For
say
what
the
you're dropping.
million as well.
What is everybody thinking? I'm thinking the million would get us there, and then, next year, hopefully, God works on our side. We can do the same thing, and then we have the whole thing paid off, and we save like $500,000 in interest savings that we can turn around and let our taxpayers know that, hey, we're able to save you, $500,000 in interest because we were able to, do this diffusion and everything else like that or whatever, which everybody's got to be happy about that. I mean,
Yeah.
the quicker you can pay down some debt, the better. I just don't think that the 2 million behooves us or whatever and stuff, because I think it might open up more questions. 1.5, you might as well leave that one alone the way that it broke down. So the million seemed like it was the best option.
7 million as well.
Let's go around. What do you think?
I would say the million.
Okay.
Ms. Smith? Okay. You throwing away, you got some more snacks? While you throwing on stuff around?
I do.
Okay, all right, so Kevin, well, I think what we want to but you're not asking us to make a motion on this one right
The
here.
tax levy, though, we're gonna adjust the number for Fund 39 to reflect $1 million.
About the million, we're gonna do the $1 million, so we all good with that, everybody?
Yeah, I can tell you what that number will be then.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we don't need a motion yet.
Okay.
Nope, we don't need a motion yet. Okay, all right, next part, we gotta go to the tax levies.
Thank you for your work.
Oh,
Yeah.
no problem. So yes, and so there's always the question whether to do the budget or the levy first, because if you adopt the budget and then you don't adopt the levy, budget's null and void. If you adopt the levy and don't adopt the budget, then the levy goes with it. But if you're comfortable with it, then we can move forward and do the levy piece.
Yes, we're comfortable with it.
Okay. So then, I do have the motion sheet in front of you, with most of it. So that will mean, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second here and use my revenue limit worksheet. I don't think any of you guys want to look at that because that's no fun.
This is for you.
So we're gonna do, so the 7,039,370 for Fund 10, that is our revenue limit. That will be the Fund 10 levy.
Mhm.
That means the Fund 39 levy will be 3,919,919,703.
3,000,000.
Okay,
And then the Community Service Fund will be 125,000.
okay.
Mhm.
which puts our full levy at 11,084,073. Which, in case you're curious, puts the mill rate at $9.06. So and when you look at historically where our mill rate has been, I mean, to go from, I think, you'll see it in the budget report. I think we're at $13 not that long ago. Dropped down to 9. So we are looking at this column here, 3,919,000, so a total of 11,084,007. So we'd like to approve that levy.
All right. Ms. Roberts?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the property tax to be levied on behalf of the school district of Brown Deer in the amount of $7,039,370 in the general fund 10. $3,919,703 in the referendum fund 39. And $125,000 in the community service fund 80 for a total of $11,084,073 for the 2022-23 school year.
We got to do a roll call vote? for this?
Yes, yeah, for taxes.
Okay, all right, so motion that has been made. We have a second?
I will second Dr. Dillon.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All right, any other questions before we go to roll call vote? All right, hearing and seeing none, Ms. Ashley?
Vito,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, I, Megan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson, I. Smith,
Aye.
Walker. And the vote carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, now let's go over to our approval of the 2022-2023 budget. Mr. Clement.
Go back to sharing my screen for a minute. I will go through this relatively quickly. If you have any questions, but obviously this is a big document. But it always follows the same pattern of the versions you've seen before. I just kind of update some information. So I don't want to go too fast, but I also don't want to go through the follow in case you have a chance to read it. So I do want to review the highlights as we complete this budget, because a couple of things have changed from the last time you saw it. Again, we have no new money spent, as we talked about that many times at the state in this second year of the biennium budget, provided no additional per pupil aid. The expectation is to use that the 3 funds as a fill-in, which is what we're doing. We did get this new aid package called Back to School, which the governor announced, I think shortly after we approved might have been the day we approved the annual meeting version. So we will receive $151,000 for that, and that is in the budget. We are also shifting some expenses to other revenue sources. So we do have our community learning center that we received, which will help fund the elementary school after school program. That was ESSER cost last year, so we're not doing that. And then our some of our utility costs for food service is going to be shifting to Fund 50. We have an excessive fund balance there. You know that we have increased costs, especially from a personnel standpoint with inflation and job market pressure. We have higher salaries for your applicants, and so this costs have been pretty fluid all year. But what you have is basically we have a couple of openings right now, but for the most part, all of the correct salary information is in place for salaries and benefits. We are still planning on the 3.5% salary increase, and we've adjusted again to have all those positions filled. Certain expense lines have been increased from the preliminary budget, so I did have to go through a review with all the news about utility costs, including continuing to climb over the winter. I did increase those significantly, so we're not surprised by that. And then also the district transportation requirements have increased. We have a couple extra buses that we weren't planning on right now. We are reviewing that with Brightway, but I'm preparing for a higher transportation bill than originally was expected. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands this piece of it. We'll go over this briefly later. I want to show you the comparison between Fund 10 revenue and expenses, but I am proposing a deficit budget this year, and it's mostly attributed to the $750,000 that we had in surplus last year that I failed to get placed in the right bank account by the time limit. So we couldn't, the auditors made us move it back. So it's sitting in our Fund 10 fund balance right now. So you guys have decided that you wanted to save that for capital expenditures in the future. So the plan is to move it at some point. That is an expense. We're not going to cut costs to cover that. We're gonna take it out of fund balance because we added over $1 million to fund balance last year. So this is, we're still adding the fund balance even by shifting this money. So out of that money, I'm looking at three major things. First of all, as you also know, over the summer, you approved the middle high school library roof project, which is about $190,000. So I'm allocating that will come out of this money. And then I reduced the 750 by that 190, which gives you the 560. So that's how much money we would be putting into Fund 46. So instead of moving it all into Fund 46 and paying it out of Fund 46, we can delay the Fund 46 transfer as long as we want to, and we'll just be paying the 190 out of fund balance. And then again, the other piece that we had was that $32,000 in this Get Kids Ahead initiative, which was given to us late in the spring last year. And we already had a surplus going. We already had expenses kind of already planned. So we were able to roll that over into this year, but it is restricted fund balance. So we do have to spend that money and show how we're using it. So that's also included in this deficit money. So it's a total of $780,000 roughly that we're looking at overspending our revenue. Now, again, that will shift. If we have a surplus in the normal operations, then that 780 changes a little bit. Or if we use more or less ESSER funding, it can change. So we're going to have, just like we did last year, we have a little play a little bit as spring comes around as to how we want the year to end up. So we'll have those conversations. And I did want to also reiterate that I'm not going to move the Fund 46 money until we have a conversation with the board, just to make sure we're all comfortable with doing it at that point. Because once we do that, it is locked in. Right now, it's available for whatever. If something changes and we decide we want to use it for something else, it's still available. So I will make sure I talk to the board. This would be after the first of the year. Certainly, I want to get through our low cash point. I don't want to add to our possibility of borrowing money by shifting that unnecessarily. And then just a little thing, we need to prepare for the fiscal cliff again. So we are preparing for what happens after this next school year. Again, we don't know what the budget's like. We don't know how much money in ESSER 3 we're going to have left. And eventually when ESSER funds dry up, where are we at as a district and what can we afford to do? So we'll have to continue to have those conversations. And then item 7, we talked about that already. You know that project X is decreasing and we are in the defeasing that. I'll go past the executive summary. We've been working on this for quite a while. I did want to share with you the student counts. So you can see this is the current number that we used on the third Friday count. So the actual count was 1652. You can see the breakdown by grades. The 86 number you see in third grade was the reason that we decided to not replace one of our third grade teachers this year. So we went down to 4 sections. We do continue to monitor, what level some of them get close to a tipping point, and we may have to talk about an additional staff member. But right now, things do seem to be leveling off. And again, this is third Friday, so we'll continue to watch that as we go. So our resident membership, as we talked about, which includes the open enrollment out minus open enrollment in and some proration calculations, we ended up with 1,744. That was 5 higher than what I had projected over the summer. So we were conservative, which is good. I'd rather be adding a little bit of money at this point than taking it away. And then when you do the 3-year average, we're at 1,696, which was 2 FTE higher. So this is the number we're at. And so I'm just going to scroll back here real quick. So you're going to see this number, this 1,614, which is 100 and some less than the next year. That number goes off next year. So assuming even if we have flat enrollment and we're in the 1740 range, you're going to see a large jump in our revenue limit just based on that 1614 going away. So that's why we're planning on having additional money next year and expecting that to happen. I did want to share a little bit on the open enrollment because that has shifted kind of significantly. When we were doing the projections, as I always do with open enrollment, we look at how many students are graduating and we assume everyone else is coming back. That wasn't the case this year. We were expecting 65 students. We currently have 54. So we are down 18 in total and down 11 than what we had projected. So we had 7 kids graduating last year, but other children decided not to come back through open enrollment. So I had to reduce that income down to $478,000. And then on the expense side, right now we are about where we ended last year with the 223 FTE of students. That's what I should qualify it. So on the third Friday count, that's the number we have to use for revenue limit purposes. So that's the 199 you see. That was much higher than last year. Last year, schools were late in reporting, so we ended up with a much lower number. And that's why you had that $304,000 addition to the revenue limit where we were able to basically back tax for students we didn't count last year. So this year, we're going to be much closer to the actual number, which is good. However, the cost of those 223 students is about $1.95 million right now. And so that's gone up from last year. The cost per student goes up, but then it's also how many kids are special education. That's a higher rate and things like that. So we've recalculated it and we're at 1.95 right now. And anticipating that it could go up a little bit with additional tuition waivers and MPS or some other schools might honor. I'm budgeting for a $2 million expense.
Question, Kevin.
Yeah.
You got right to where I was talking about. I was looking at this budget, and the special education curriculum went up almost $500,000 from last year. So now,
Special education, you mean the overall? You're talking about the budget?
yeah,
Fund 27?
what do they got this one in? This is in your budget adoption, 150,000. Well, 150,000. That's the, your, line item or whatever. And it goes special education curriculum.
Oh, what page are you on right now?
I am on page, what is this?
Should be on the bottom, there should be.
No, the page numbers.
Oh, you're looking at the DPI?
Yeah.
So the end of the document, the DPI.
Yeah.
The, the DPI version is done by function. So you're looking at Fund 27? Special Education Fund 27?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I think it went up like 500,000 from the year before. The year before it was 2,236,615.96, and now we're going to 2,899,598. So if we just round it off from 2.9, means it's about 500,000 more than the year before.
I want to make sure I'm looking. What number is on that line at the front?
150,000.
Oh, you're looking, okay, hold on. You're looking at just Fund 10. Or you're looking at, I'm sorry, you're looking at expenses. I'm sorry, you're looking at expenses for 1.5, yeah, special education.
Right.
Right. This would be anything tied to special education, which would be staffing.
Right.
And
So I was just saying like that. So we put an extra $500,000 into that line item. And do we think, is that enough? Are we positive that's enough? Or is that too much? I mean, to go $500,000, I mean, that's what got to be additional staff positions and everything else. So.
But what it is that cost, and the reason you have to look at, because remember, last year's is as actual. So the audited numbers are actual and
Right.
where we were.
And then what you just budgeted for.
Right, and I'm budgeting, one of the things that we're going, we did add the early childhood teacher. That was something you voted on last time.
Right, but that wouldn't have been under the, but that was part of the special ed, right?
That special ed. So that teacher, which we haven't hired yet, that position's been added though for budgetary purposes. So that's in there. The other thing that we are looking through right now is we believe we have a significant number of educational assistants and we may have more than we need. And we said, we have more than districts our size generally have. So like I did last year, I budgeted for having all those positions filled. We are kind of re-examining that, something Ms. Brownless is doing, just making sure that we have, the right ratios. And that's always a position that I budget for everybody being here every single day, all year round. And that never really happens, but I have to be prepared for that. So that will probably decrease over time, but from a budgetary standpoint, I have to have it in there in case somehow we manage to have paraprofessionals here every day, all year. We never have to hire anybody else. We're not there yet. We have a few openings yet, but for the most part, we're pretty close to fully staffed in that area, but we still have a few openings.
Can you clarify? You said we have more than districts our size, but they got our same similar caseload.
And caseloads, right? That's something that
That's
just.
what I'd rather,
Right. When I say size, yeah, I guess I was really referring to caseloads. I mean, and we're just re-examining, and so it's not an immediate thing. I mean, Ms. Ramos is looking at how IPs are written, just making sure whether one-to-ones are a all-day thing or whether there are certain pockets where one-to-one may be needed. So staff members might be able to work with multiple kids over the course of the day. So we're looking at, all those pieces because that's an area where we budget $1 million in paraprofessionals.
okay.
Which like I said, other districts do manage to get by with less. Not that we don't want to underserve our students, but we feel we may be overserved. So
Well, again, that's the reason I was asking about the additional $500,000 from the year before. And then being able to, just want to be able to make sure that, okay, we're putting this money in there. Are we going to be able to hit all of the needs? Because that's one of the things that we talked about, our students in our special education and everything else like that. So are we doing everything? The money, if we're going to put it in there, Are we using it so that way we don't have some more of these other issues where people are saying we don't have enough staff or this or that or whatever? I'd rather have the money there, spend the money and do it rather than people coming back to us saying, well, what happened? Why come we're not doing this? Why we're not doing that?
I will point out that, again, you're not seeing the budgeted number from last year, but last year we budgeted.
I'm just looking at the audited.
No, right. I'm just saying like, so last year we budgeted like over $4 million. And now we're like at 3.9 now. So we've been able to kind of get a better look at costs. So we're not over budgeting unnecessarily either. So we're trying to, bring that in. So we have more money allocated for special education. Absolutely. Whether we hit that amount or not, or whether it ends up, falling back a little bit, we'll see. We'll update it as we go.
Okay.
I think that's really wonderful. Also, if it could be used somehow, we can get some data that shows how we're utilizing the aids to help with the special needs and also that tier 1 and tier 2 instruction. I would think that would be something that the community might want to see, I don't know.
From the special education program itself, and obviously we discussed curriculum tier 1, tier 2 across the board.
Right, whether, what the growth has been, given that we really have. Just something to kind of show that we are making some way or headway.
Sure, we can include that as part of the data conversation.
I mean, is that asking too much or?
We can have a conversation with Ms. Ramos. It's okay. Ms. Macon, I think it's also important to note, as we look forward to what the legislators may or may not do. As far as K-12 schooling is concerned, moving forward is we only receive, I think it's 30% from the.
It's about 30, yeah, 30.
About 30% of the cost from the state as it relates to servicing special education students. So there is an over reliance on the districts to have to absorb those costs to meet the needs of our special education students. And so hopefully, as we continue to advocate for more dollars for K-12 education, that they will increase that cost or increase the dollars that our school districts are receiving around special education students and meeting their needs.
Because right now it's like $1,000 short, because generally for general students, we get $12,500 some odd dollars, right? But in order for us to do the needs of a special education student, it's $13,000.
Well, that's just a number they kind of plunk on the value of a cost, but that's not necessarily accurate. When we're talking about special education categorical aid, the state looks at, it's things that are quote unquote aidable, which is mostly salaries and benefits for employees. So anyone who's licensed as an employee that's in Fund 27 is part of this pool of money that is aidable. And then the state provides us a percentage. They do a fixed amount across the entire state, and then based on claims, they figure out how much each district gets. So right now we're at about 30 cents. So if you spend $1 million in those aidable categories, you're going to get about $300,000 back in revenue from the state. So they're expecting then that the district is paying $700,000 out of local funds. That's that Fund 10 to Fund 27 transfer that does most of the heavy lifting. We are though also Ms. Ramos is very keen on the Medicaid piece as well. So we are working to continue. We added Go Solutions last year. We saw an increase in our Medicaid revenue. We think we can do even better this year. So we're going to continue to push for that. And that's additional money that then comes into our Fund 27 that then doesn't require as much of a fund transfer for us.
Okay, I got a question for you. I don't know if you may not know an answer, but what is our per pupil cost?
I don't have that in front of me, and per pupil is always fine. It depends what you want to include in it. I mean, if you include debt, if you include, other things, I mean, different organizations put different, values on it. I can say from a revenue standpoint, we get $12,500.
Right.
We have to just define exactly what you wanted to include in that, and then, then we can obviously do the math in that piece, but.
Okay, all right.
And that was just a tidbit of information, but the advocacy right now is for the legislators to give us 60%. To increase that 30% to 60% in terms of what we need to service our students. So pray on that.
All right, I just want to make sure with the open enrollment piece, everybody knows where we're there. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna jump through the revenue limit projections. We already saw that, and you've seen these similar numbers that we've done. We've set the new levy, so that's very exciting. So we'll be updating these numbers here. And so then we know that we will be taxing the district $11,084,000 next year in total. So real briefly then in our operations budget, I'll just go through these really fast. yeah, some of them didn't change at all, some of them changed slightly. I did talk about the Fund 10 where I did, once we were able to recognize some savings from some of the positions when they were finally filled, our budget versus actual costs, we were able to shift some things around and it allowed me to absorb some of the utility costs and other things. They'd have to increase even more some of the co-curricular amounts because of the increases in official pay has gone up this year, and so we had to plan for that. So there's a number of different areas. Didn't get a lot of additional revenue. We still are budgeting $1.1 million in ESSER 3. Just 184,000 that you see above it. That includes that the money from Governor Evers, the Get Back to School, and then also there was a second allotment of that Kids Ahead mental health grant. So we have another $32,000 in there that's included in that piece as well. So our total revenue is actually just up slightly from last year, about 1%. But you can see that our expenses are much higher than they were last year. Now, again, we underspent by about $1 million. That was why we had a surplus. I'm gonna guess that hopefully we're gonna come in under this to some extent expense wise, but we'll see how the year goes. But again, highlights, we do have open enrollment is a significant amount of money, the $2 million. Our transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 27 is also a significant amount of money at $2.7 million. Any savings we have in Fund 27 will reduce that amount, or any additional revenue we get, Medicaid, something like that goes in Fund 27 will reduce that amount. And then right now I still have that $550,000 expense in there for Fund 46. So again, keeping in mind that there's about $750,000 in extra spending that would have been done through that Fund 46 transfer last year. So that's one reason why it's up as high as it is. So then again, just so everybody is clear, so everybody's comfortable, this is the comparison with revenues and expenses. So we're looking at 25.4 million in revenues, 26.2 million in expenses, which has the deficit of $782,000, which includes $190,000 for the roof project, $560,000 transfer to Fund 46, and then that $32,000 for the Get Kids Ahead. So I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable when we present this, that's why we're doing it that way. Questions? Any questions on that? All right. Fund 21 didn't change at all. That was pretty much the same as where we were. That's the special revenue trust. Special education is in there. And again, we're using this $3.9 million budget, so it's actually up a little bit there. Looking at our non-referendum debt service, that is non-existent. There's nothing there. I will update this chart with our additional money. So this tax levy is going to increase, and then we're going to have some defeasance here of $1 million roughly. And then just showing you again, this year in March, we'll be paying off these two debts. So our debt list will get a little bit shorter next year, which is good. And we'll save additional money because this number here, this 14.85 million is going to drop when we make an additional $1 million payment. Long-term capital improvement trust. This includes the $560,000 transfer that we would do at some point this year. But I don't have any plans to expense right now. We've been using it out of fund balance other than the one project. I'm just showing you, this is the last time you're going to see this chart because we're done with Fund 49. We have none of that friends. Then again, food service again is very fluid. We're just,
Man, I wish we could figure out a way to spend.
we've seen with Fund 50, we've seen a slow roll up with students accessing meals. We're seeing a better, even with universal free breakfast, the numbers have been kind of slow to ramp up, but we're getting closer on that. And then we've started doing a la carte. The pod is open, so additional revenue is coming into that, not that we need the additional revenue. And we are spending money as fast as I can come up with something worthwhile to spend the money on.
We get the vans ordered yet?
The van is in manufacturing and will be here in a couple weeks.
Are they using the pod?
I'm sorry?
Are they using the pod?
Yep.
Well, could we maybe get one for the middle school?
We've talked about that. You don't have as much space. It might be a smaller version, but it might be something we look at next summer to do so. If it's a smaller, because they do some a la carte at the middle school. The middle school right now, they're very jealous because right now they have soft serve, which is something that the high school does not have. So there's we have frozen yogurt soft serve. So. And then finally, community service. This is Fund 80. This hasn't changed much. Again, this is where the after school programs will run through, and the Elite Falcon Partners, which is the former STEP program with senior citizens, our school resource officer. So, and then after those pages, this is the DPI version of the budget, which nobody wants to look at because it's,
That's where I saw my.
it's the unpleasant version to look at, but again, this is all by function, whereas everything else we kind of talk about is by object, by salaries. When we talk about Fund 10 and salaries, we're looking at salaries as a whole. Here, you're looking at it by topic, whether it's regular curriculum, or co-curricular, special education, whatever the case may be. The one thing I just want to point out, just again, so everybody is aware, right now, our unaudited fund balance in Fund 10 is $5.9 million. So last year, we were at 4.8, and some of you may remember, if you paid attention, the days it was in the twos. So we have made considerable strides in fund balance. So really to leave an extra 1.1 million in there than what, not really the smartest thing for us to do. There are better purposes for it. So reminder that as we do the $500,000 that we're taking out, that will drop down to 5.172. So you can see fund balance will still be up higher than it was 2 years ago, which is the goal, to have that be a good amount. So just to remind people with that deficit spending, that's the reason why it's just more or less a timing thing. And that is my presentation toward the budget. I'm sorry, Dr. Garrison, that I took longer than you would have wanted, but I wanted, it is your last, I wanted your last meeting to last as long as possible. So I would answer questions. So if you have any other questions regarding the budget, please let me know. Happy to
Make a motion on this one.
Yeah.
And you do need to make a motion. I'll vote on it.
Would someone like to make a motion for the, Anyone make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 budget?
Dr. Beto, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 original budget as presented.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second Dr. Beagle.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Is this the original?
This is called the original budget. This is, when you adopt it, it's called the original. If we were to do any revisions, then it'd be called a revised.
Oh, okay.
Well, all the other stuff was preliminary, so this is really the budget
Okay.
that we change it.
All right. Any other questions?
Your work.
Any other questions? All right, here in the scene done, Miss Ashley, we have to go to roll call vote for this.
Yes, please.
Vito,
Aye.
Daniels, Ashley, aye. Macon,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Walker. And 6-0, and the voice roll call carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our item number F, approval of the resolution authorizing $1 million in tax and revenue anticipation.
So I'm not going to read all the documents that I presented to you. So I've been working with BMO Harris Bank. Traditionally, we have borrowed money for 1 year to pay for our cash deficiency that we may have at a particular point in the year. This year, with our fund balance as high as it is, I did not want to pursue a year-long loan because interest rates right now would have been unpredictable a little bit too. So to do it for the entire year, because really we have about a month where we get close to an issue. And I'm not even 100% confident we're going to use this year, but I would rather have it available than not. And it's much cheaper. It's going to cost us about $10,000 to have it and not use it than it would be to actually have borrowed the $1 million like we did last year and pay interest on it for the full year and then repay it. So this will be a line of credit, not a loan. So they'll have it available to us. Either Dr. Brown or I write a note to the bank. They deposit it in our bank account that day or the next day. And then I'm ready to deal with any cash flow issue we might have.
So that's only if we really need it.
Only if we
really need it. So if you don't need it,
I don't use it. It's for $1 million, it was a $1,500 charge if we don't use it. Otherwise, we pay interest only for the days that we actually borrowed. So I would pay it off as soon as possible. So from our cash flow standpoint, we are low toward the end of November. So I would say the November 30th payroll is probably our low point, or November 20th when we do accounts payable. So Thanksgiving. And then on December 7th is when we get our first equalization aid payment. And so and that's usually 40%. So with our $13 million, I think that's going to be several $1 million, and then we should be fine. And then we start getting tax revenue in January. So really, it is just that small window where we are potentially cash deficient. I'm not even sure we're there. My one thought this year was just we're still working through some of the ESSER budgeting and on how we're gonna spend it. So I'm gonna be a little later in claiming money than I was last year. So I just want to make sure that I'm not, the delay of me getting money from the grants isn't the cause of a cash issue. So we'll have this as a fallback, but I'm actually hopeful that at some point we may be able to look at this and say, we don't need to do anything. So.
And it costs us $1,500 to hold on to $1 million just in.
10,000 total, but it was, yeah, there was legal fees involved, but considering the fact that we spent $50,000 a year, that was the loan that was 2.4 million that we paid off once I started. Then we did $1 million last year and that cost us about $10,000. This is gonna cost us about $10,000 this year. The 1 year fixed loan would not have cost, would have been more this year because interest rates have gone up.
How long is the line good for?
It's good for a year. We can't have debt for more than a year. So my goal is, I got a little bit of a late start, is actually to pay it off and close it probably in the summer and then be ready. If we decide to do it again in the fall, we'll do it in October.
Does it go physical year or does it go 12 months?
If it goes 12 months, but we can close it early. We just can't, the school district can't have debt till more than one calendar year.
Okay,
12, yeah, when I say can't, yeah, 12 months.
so from the time we sign it,
Right.
then it goes.
So the documents say we're actually closing on the 31st. We're closing on Monday for this, and then we have to have it paid off by the 31st next year or the 30th. I think. So we have to be exactly 365 days.
Okay. All right, cool. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion. Okay. I'd like them to make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing $1 million tax and revenue anticipation revolving note of the school district of Brown Deer as presented.
All right, motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right.
And I'm sorry, could you also do a roll call vote for this, just to.
Okay, Ms. Robinson seconded. All right, any discussion before we go to roll call vote? You can say none, Ms. Ashley.
Tito,
Aye.
Daniel, Ashley, Nathan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Smith, Walker. 6-0, and the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go on now to where we at. All right, G, Village Academy lease.
We don't have a report, it's just knowing that we are going to eliminate the lease. All of our students have been, we do have a report. All of our students have been moved back up to the buildings from the Village Academy. Ms. Ramos, as the Director of Pupil Services, has come in and created plans for students to come back to our buildings and remain in our buildings. And so far, they are acclimating nicely in the buildings. And so we did not want to have a location without students, without the need. We don't have a need for the location anymore. And so if there are any questions, we can, let me back up just a little bit and say, this was born out of the need to address students coming back last year from COVID. We knew our buildings were unsettled last year. Our students were getting reacclimated to coming back to school from COVID. Keep in mind that we had students who came to us last year who hadn't seen, at least our school, our students in Brown Deer had access to our buildings as we phased in the 1 year and then came back fully last year. We had students in our buildings who were out of school, meaning they were virtual for an entire 2 years, came to us. They were placed in our buildings, and we all know and could agree that students had a hard time coming back and adjusting to coming out of COVID. Those were behaviors that we could not have anticipated last year. And so this, as the superintendent, I was attempting to come up with solutions to address the student behaviors, but also to relieve our teachers of having to carry more weight than we were familiar with pre-COVID. And so with Dr. Ramos, I'm gonna put it in the atmosphere for her because she is working on her doctorate as well. She has been able to work with the students and families and bring them back. Again, we have plans and services and supports wrapped around those students, which happened to be 3 at the time, and the other ones transitioned to high school. And those students are doing well. So we thought it would be fiscally appropriate. Well, this was never intended to be a permanent location for students. And we thought now that we have these additional supports in the buildings and kids are way more settled this year, that there is not a need for the Village Academy moving forward. We also want to be continue to be intentional just as we have been. Over my experience here in Brown Deer is making sure we're providing a free and appropriate public education to all of our students inside of our buildings. The other piece with the Village Academy is our intent was to hire a teacher who had a dual license, a regular education license and a special education license to ensure that our students who have IEPs, their needs could also be met. And as we know, the teacher pipeline is what it is all across the nation. And we were unable to fulfill that vacancy in the manner in which we had intended. And so that summarizes why we would like to continue to service our students within our buildings, wrap the supports around them, around the students. That the board has been so gracious to give us those offerings for our kids and continue on in that fashion with servicing our students.
Is it possible am I able to kind of introduce something a little different that we talked about before as it pertains to like almost like a Head Start or was it a 3K or 4K we talked about at one time? And we were looking.
That had to be something, that's a different agenda item. Unless you're talking about the one where we talked about the 3-year, but no, that's a whole different agenda item, because this is dealing with the lease itself.
Right.
Um,
That space for the usage of the space, you know, because at one time we were trying to figure out where we could put these students if we did that. And maybe continuing the lease for the purpose of that early start.
It's not big enough there.
there's guidelines that you gotta have basically to be able to do that. I think that might be too small. Okay, that would be that. I guess my question in relationship to this lease. Now, again, Pastor Davis submitted a letter and of course he made a statement and everything. Are we? I guess my first thing is Kevin, did we talk to him first and say that we're getting ready to do this, or did we just send him an email?
It appears though the email, I did reach out, we obviously had to provide written notice that
Right, of course.
was happening. And so that the email that I sent was the first time that he was specifically told that it was happening, although we were very slowly bringing kids back for the, several weeks before. And I don't know if, I don't know how much he was there. I was never there during the school year as to what was occurring. So I don't know if he interacted with the teachers much or how often he was there during the day. So.
All I would just say is when we have partners like that or whatever, it might be better to go and talk to them and tell them, hey, this is what's going on, what we're getting ready to do, rather than just straight send them an email and be like, it's over with or whatever, because again, there might be questions. I guess that would be that part of it. And then the other thing that he asked about was that we were talking about paying October, November, or was it November and December, and then use the security deposit to pay for January? I mean, that we don't, that's not good business. At least amount, anything that I've ever done, you always pay that, and then when you get finished doing your walkthroughs or approvals, then you get your security deposit back at X amount of time or whatever, whether that's 30 days. I don't remember what was in. I'm just glad that Ms. Peterson caught that in that contract, because there was no out in the contract before that happened. So again, I don't know exactly what the verbiage is in relationship to that, but generally what you would do is you would pay whatever it is that you owed. And then once we did the walkthrough, or he did however that worked, then you get the security deposit back.
I think I think when we envisioned, vacating, with 90 days, I think we were probably thinking we would still be in there after we had announced that we were vacating. Whereas in this case, we're basically, we have to go and get a few things from the space, but we're basically ready to turn over the keys and completely vacate the space. So my concern was just having that assessment done, you know, when we give up the keys and when we're done, and then have that final assessment as to the space. And then if he thought everything was in order, then like I said, that's where keeping the security deposit as the last month's rent, then we don't have to send him a check and he sends us a check for the same amount. That was just the thought behind that. But, you know, instead of waiting until February, because we are paying him for November, December, and January, the final 3 months based on the notice. But I wasn't really comfortable with waiting until February 1st to have an assessment, because we're not going to be there at all. I mean, we have no, he certainly has the right to use the space in whatever way they want to, can lease it out to another company or another group, doesn't matter to us. We're committed to that amount. I just don't have any, if we're not there and we're never there, I just don't.
Could you,
Can the
again,
Now, can't the assessment happen now?
That's not what they want to do.
That's what we asked.
So that's part of the conversation we'll have to continue.
well, again, we had the conversation, so hopefully you guys are going to have a conversation with Pastor Davis and mend some fences and do some things or whatever have you. I would just my recommendation would be is to just do the November, December, January, pay that, and then when they do the walkthrough, however we've got it written up within the contract, then, you know, we get the security deposit back from them rather than us being like, well, you know what, use the security deposit as our last month. It just makes it cleaner, easier. You know, I think that was probably one of his biggest things in relationship to that. I mean, I think we probably all would feel the same way. If I rented my house out to somebody, I wouldn't be like, at the end, well,
Most leases don't do that.
yeah, so.
I have a question. Do we have a end date on the lease though originally?
A year.
So
It was a year.
it's supposed to go through June. You
Right.
know, my only concern is, you know, small churches or anybody who's budgeting out.
Yeah,
No.
certain,
Budgeted for the whole year. So I can.
we'd have been done in June.
Right, so 2,226, that's a big chunk for a small church that they probably put in their budget and they're expecting, or they were expecting to get that money. Hoping there would be some conversation and some consideration, because I'm thinking that he's probably a little bit more frustrated with the fact that it's gonna cut into his budget or his perceived or planned budget versus, his bottom line.
It's bottom line.
Versus
Plus, we
that-
did renos too, to the building or whatever. He
Right,
did do some stuff to that building to get it ready for us to be able to come in. So again, I think that, if once you guys have your conversation, if you came back to the board and said, we would kind of want to make certain pieces right or whatever have you. I don't think that we'd have really that much issues in relationship to that, because I guess sometimes for certain things for me, it's more about that community relationship and that community building piece or whatever. And what are we actually saying out to our community in relationship to, hey, we want to be able to do this. We're going to partner with you or whatever stuff. But again, you guys, you know, have your conversations with him and everything. I know, Miss Ashley, you said you look like you wanted to say something.
I was just doing the math and that is roughly what, about 10 grand? That's what, if we're
almost
doing the
13.
13,000. And yeah, to your point, I mean, when you're having the conversations, you know, I don't know.
I don't know exactly what to say or whatever, but I would try to do something to make it
Yeah, kind of.
right, not as hard on, again, because we do know when we were first starting everything up, and Dr. Kelsey Brown, you know, we were first trying to do everything, he was doing some renos to the building, doing some things or whatever in order for us to be able to do it and everything. And I know that was a big piece of his, but I don't know how large his church is, but we do know that was a big part of whatever that actual part of their budget was going to be, was this collaborative effort with the district or whatever. So, you know, you guys, I would just say, you know, when you had a conversation, see is there some happy median that he would feel good about and would love and would want to partner with us again, because you also got to remember this gentleman also football camp stuff, Leroy Butler, some other different things or whatever. You know, I mean, again, we're all partners. This is community business right now and stuff. So, you know, I wouldn't want a couple $1,000s to it seems like we spend money all the time anyway. So I wouldn't want a couple $1,000s to end a partnership or a relationship that we may need again in the future, because we never know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If we want to reach out to another organization, they may hear that we, you know, didn't end this one as. I don't know.
We're good partners.
But we want to have a.
We will certainly have the conversation with Pastor Davis. I'd like for us all to keep in mind that this was a pilot. We were
Sure.
something we were trying.
Oh,
And so I'm mindful of the what's happening with his budget. We all have budgets that we're all trying to manage and be mindful of. Never was the intent to sever a relationship, but in this case, the partnership around the Village Academy, because there isn't a need for the Village Academy any longer. It's more of a catch-22 for us as we were trying to meet the needs of what actually had transpired last year, and meeting the needs of students and trying to just, again, provide some relief from what transpired last year in our school district.
Dr. Garrison?
So I want to go on record and say, you know, first of all, we thank Pastor Davis for, you know, working with us in the school district of Brown Deer and providing the space for us to kind of venture into this opportunity. I want to make sure we, as an administration, we do thank him for doing that.
Very thankful.
I think that's something that, you know, I don't want to say goes without saying, but I want to note that into this conversation as well. Thank him for allowing us to use the space and serve our students here in the Brown Deer School District. I also want to say that, you know, in terms of the lease agreement, that in a lease agreement, there are termination clauses. There are termination clauses, and that's
And potentially into the future.
So it wasn't just that the lease was terminated, it was
Right.
the way that it was
Yeah,
terminated.
that's exactly what I'm
So.
thinking as well. Unfortunately, I think that it was, I think that it was handled from a business perspective. You notified them as the contract indicated, in writing. But I think that he's feeling, based on what was being said, that it should have been just a little bit more than that, because of everything that he and his church, quote unquote, had done in his eyes to help us in his eyes. And so I think that that was the start of it. I'm sure these other things came into play, thinking about the dollars that he has lost and things like that. Going back to what Dr. Beto has said, as we're trying to, because you're right, he could invariably get out here and say whatever he wants, but we want to be the right kind of people here at Brown Deer. And we want to work with our partners. And even if we offer him, keep the security deposit or whatever the case may be, we will still have a savings because we did not utilize the expense of that entire year. And so in trying to recreate this relationship that was good and great in the beginning, so that we don't hear stuff like we just heard. And it may be as simple as simply saying, what can we do We know that there's this cancellation clause. We certainly cannot honor the whole contract. But what can we do to help you through this time?
Yep, make you whole, make you feel whole, this scenario or whatever. So just put the in from that, just put the ball in his court and see, kind of what that, see where it goes from there. I would just think that would just be the easiest thing and stuff, because like I said before, just the letter and then just listening to him, I was like, we don't ever want to have that, you know what I'm saying, an issue with, especially one of our pastors and parishioners and everything like that is not what we want. We do not want that type. That is not what we want to be. That's not what we're about, and that's what we want to be able to do. And I'm quite sure if that was not your intention or whatever and everything and stuff. So we just gonna keep it moving. And you had those conversations and stuff, and Dr. Kelsey Brown and Kevin, you guys do your best thinking in relationship to that and put it in this court and find out what it would, how, what would it take for him to feel whole and feel good in relationship to what we gotta do. All right. So that was that. So now let's go to our reports. SWSA. Okay, well, Lisa's not here. But Lita Bosby.
So a couple things, the convention will be, registration will open on November 1st. For the state education convention that is being held January 18th through the 20th. So a full agenda is now January 18th through the 20th.
January 18th through the 20th.
Register by December 15th to receive the early bird rate.
Donna, can you get us registered? No, we make it through Donna. So Donna, could you register us? Well, is everybody planning on going?
Where is this January, what is it?
January 18th through the 20th?
It's in. Okay, all right.
It's usually back to Wisconsin Center.
We usually choose one date though, right?
No, we usually try to go as long. If we can, sometimes you can't, but we generally try to go there for both days.
You have the rates, No, I don't have the rate, but the convention site is open and get the rate and the whole agenda.
So is Donna registering us or do we all?
Donna does.
Which day one to attend as well.
Sounds good.
Okay, and then, there's just two other things, there's an election webinar this Tuesday. As I think it was alluded to earlier today, we got a big election coming up.
I'm doing that.
So if Wednesday, October 26th at noon, there is an election webinar series. And then finally, the fall regional meetings continuing. Everyone, school board members, sorry, that's fine. And these are ongoing. If you want to know where the meeting for our area is, you can find it on the website, because I forgot to write it down. I think ours is in Menominee Falls.
Is this
but
for
I'm
the
not sure.
strategic planning?
No, these are the fall regional meetings that WASB hosts as informationals for.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we usually doing it if you want.
That's why I was asking her, because this one
Yeah,
is.
there's a series,
online.
these are series,
Yeah,
yeah, they're
One for us is online, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
I think just did one last week. I don't want to give you the wrong answer, I gotta guess, but. Okay, and that concludes my report for last.
All right. Ed Foundation.
Not really anything new, now that we're back meeting, just make sure. Yeah, nothing really, new happening right now, so. Hopefully we'll have more as just continuing to, recruit those members is where we are right now.
Okay, cool. Then Parks and Rec, I know we've all have,
I think somebody else to pick up Parks and Rec.
okay, we are, this already done. All right. All right, so yeah, that's that part, and then Ms. Macon is actually picking up Parks and Rec. Okay, so that is that. All right, then our board planning calendar, October 25th, regular board meeting, which is today. know why that's on there now. Okay, the October 28th is a PD day, or professional learning day. November 8th, special board meeting. November 18th, professional learning day. November 22nd, regular board meeting. November 23rd, early release day. Thanksgiving break, the 23rd through the 25th. Okay, all right. All right, and then with that being said, would someone like to make a motion for us to go into closed session? And actually, before we do that, is there anything that we're voting on to be able to come back in open session for this? All right, so, all right. So would someone like to make a motion to go into closed session?
Anita?
Yes, I move that we move into closed session. Oh, I think you gotta read the whole thing. Oh, make a motion. I make a motion to enter in the closed session to discuss personnel matters and to consider a strategy for crime detection or prevention pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, parent D.
All right, a motion has been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion has been made and seconded. All right, let's go into roll call vote.
Tito,
Aye.
Daniel Gasly, aye. Bacon,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Robinson. Aye. Smith. Aye. And Walker. And motion carries 6-0 on a roll call vote.
All right, and we will go into closed session at 7:42, and we will not be coming back into open session. So for all of our friends and partners that are on the line, thank you very much for attending the District of Brown Deer School Board meeting. Thank you. Have a wonderful remainder of your evening and even better week. And let's hope that our Packers, our Brewers, and our Bucks do their thing. All right.
Thank you.